Oh, thank you, Peretz. Almost forgot that. Okay, so the first part of the daf goes through again with is it considered a zchus for a woman? Well, no, we're just going to discuss eved. Is it a zchus for an eved to be freed by his boss, or is it bad for him? Right? We had a machlokes in the Mishna, Rameir and the Chacham, whether can you voluntarily, meaning can a shliach decide to be makabel the get for his eved, for the eved, without the eved knowing, meaning the rule is zachin l'adam shalai b'fanu, right? I'm allowed to be zachin something for somebody, because why not? There's all gain. I can't be mechayev somebody something. So the question is an eved that gets his get to make him free, is that a zchus for him or not? So they have a back and forth, right? So let's see. So Tanya, we're about 10, 12 lines up from the bottom. Tanya, Amar Rebbe Lazar, Amarnu loy lemeir. So we said to Meir, and this is just a repeat. It's going through more in depth with the Mishnah. And Rashi says, what happened to Meir? What happened to Reb Meir? Or Rebbe Meir? So Rashi says, because he was his friend, he didn't call him Rebbe Meir. Right? So you see from this that two Gedolim that are friends don't have to refer to each other as Rebbe this, Rebbe that. So he says, Amarnu loy lemeir. We said to Meir, it's a zchus for the eved. How can you say that it's not a zchus for an eved to go free? He's right now he's an eved, and then you're getting for him that he's going to free. So Amar Lanu, so Rameir said back to us, no, it's bad for an eved to go free. Shimhaya eved kohen paislam and a truma, because he was an eved of a kohen, now he no longer is going to have truma. Right? Yeah. So the chayra, that's a bad.
And what happens if he doesn't eat truma?
No, it's just he has less food options. Right? There's less food options, meaning ultimately, we're not really gonna see it, but the question is why this whole thing is not subjective, right? Meaning for this coin, it should be a negative. For this coin, it'll be for this eved, it'll be a negative. For this eved, it'll be a positive. It doesn't seem that the Gemara is going down that road. The Gemara is just saying it's one or the other. Yeah.
The eved only gets truma if the Cohen gives him the truma. He's not, I got a whole layout of food over here. I say, hey, you can eat anything from this side, but that side's truma. I'm not interested.
No, I'm not so sure you're right. I think he could go buy truma. He could eat truma.
He can truma?
Yes.
From somebody else?
Yes. Why does he have to? If he's considered part of, like we said yesterday, the previous Rashi says, the animals, an eved is the same thing as a shor and a chamor. Right? There's a Rashi, second wide line. Right? The same line as the Rashi with Amar Lo Lemeir. It's this shor and chamor, just like a shor and chamor. They're part of the boss's property, so they could eat truma. Yeah, as far as I know.
He's no less than an animal. He's more. We had a couple times already that he can't go. The only reason he can't go pick up the truma from the geirin is because of Xerit. That's him. Right. He can go and pick it up and eat and do whatever he wants.
Well, he can't steal it.
No, but he can eat the rabbi. He can eat the Adon's truma. We're just worried about his side thing.
He can eat the Adon's truma without the Adon saying okay.
Yeah. Adon feeds him. That's his meal.
Yeah, but he doesn't have to eat the best. Why do I got to give him my best truma? I could give him.
That's the thing I was going to ask. What Meicha taste of truma is the best? It's grain.
Don't make a difference. Doesn't make a difference. It's just less food options. That's what David's asking. It's less food options.
Right.
Anyways, okay. So that's what they said back to him. That's what Rameir said back to Rebbe Lazar. So Amar Nuloi. So he said to him, so what if the Baal does not want to feed him and doesn't want to be mefarnes? He doesn't want to take care of him. So Rishai, he's allowed to do that, right? Like we said in the yesterday's daf. So Amar, meaning So memela, it's not necessarily that he's losing out on anything, right? So meaning because at any point the guy's support could stop. So how can you say that him going free is not positive? Says, what happens if an eved of a kohen runs away? Or the wife of a kohen who is rebellious, right? And she runs away from her husband. Meaning what we mean by she's rebellious, and now he can't give her a get because she ran away. So they're still allowed to eat truma, even though they're estranged. The eved and the wife, they're still allowed to eat truma, right? But this eved, once his master frees him, he's not going to be able to eat, right? So you see, okay, the question is exactly what the Gemara is going to ask. Exactly, what does this answer have to do with anything, right? He had asked him, well, the guy could cut off support at any time, and then he comes back and says, well, what happens if the wife and the eved run away? They could still eat truma, and this guy can't. So the Gemara is going to get back to that. Aval isha chayvula, but an isha, a divorce is a chiyuv. She came pasul in a truma, mafsidim in a mezainis. It's pasul. She can't eat truma, and she also doesn't get fed from her husband. So how can you say
what happens if she's getting $1 million ksuba?
So yeah, that's a good question. So I think that's maybe a one-time, meaning she's getting that anyways, right? Meaning she's getting that's hers.
She doesn't get it. As long as she's married to the guy, she doesn't get it.
No, but she's gonna get it when she gets divorced or
so
he
she's
dies.
Gonna get it. So why is it? Who said it's a chayv?
No, because but it's hers.
So.
No, but that's her. The ksuba is hers. It's not. He's not when they get divorced. When he's getting divorced, that's not right. That's not, how do you say it? That's not something that she's getting out of nowhere. Okay, but I think that's pshat, but I'm not sure if that's correct. But anyways, so
you're saying that's non-negotiable.
Correct. I mean, she's going to get that unless she dies first. She's getting that. That's hers. It's her ksuba. It's hers. It's not like there's something that he's getting for her now that she never had before, right?
Look, she always has a lien on his property until he pays
right.
he pays it to her.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. So then Gemara says, "My karmale or my kamahadlu." What did they tell him? What did they say to a man? What did he answer? So now Gemara goes through exactly what he meant. Hachi karmelu hishbasoni al mezainis. You answer me about the mezainis, right? Because he loses out from the owners when he gets what do you call it? Not annihilated, emancipated, right? Isn't that the word? When he gets freed, right? So when he gets freed, he loses out from the food from his boss. But what about the truma? So you didn't answer me about the truma. If you're going to say, right? Well, at any time, the boss could just give him a get, and he'll be pasul from truma, right? So therefore, what is the shliach? By the shliach accepting the get for him, what exactly is he doing? Right? Meaning the boss can always just he can just make the slave go out by just giving him a get. Right? So, and meaning it's always in the hand of the Baal to make the guy stop eating truma. So it's not any, now that the shliach accepts the get on behalf of the eved, that's not any worse than what could have happened to him anyways, right? But so he's saying, if you're going to say that the Baal can divorce the eved at any time or free the eved at any time, shavik le'va'arik va'azal alma, but it's not true, because he could, shavik means he could leave him, va'arik, and he could run and go to the world, and he could run away from the Baal, right? He can run away from his boss, and the boss can never give him a get to free him. In which case, he could run overseas and eat truma all he wants. They go to him and tell him, "You're an Eved Kanani." He says, "Yeah, but I'm owned by a yid, so I owned by a kohen, so I could eat truma." And then it's not possible for him to stop because he's away from his boss. Eved kohen shabarach, right? And what about the Eved of a kohen runs away? Ve'eshes kohen shemarda abayla, and the wife of a kohen who rebels on her husband, they could both eat truma. But now, this guy, this Eved, who his shliach accepted his freedom on his behalf, now he doesn't have this option. So it is a chayv. Right? Basically, what the Gemara is saying, what Ramey is saying, is that they always have the ability to run away from the Baal. And once they run away from the Baal, then the Baal can't get rid of them. Right? And then they can go overseas and knock themselves out with truma. But now that this guy accepted their freedom, so then it's a problem. Anyway, so Gemara says, Shaper Kol. So Rameir said, he said a good answer. Right? So Amarava, this is what it meant, what was said back to him in the Mishnah. Right? Mefnei, meaning what they said to Rameir. What they said is because the reason why the Eved gets to eat Truma is because, like we said earlier, he is the purchase that belongs to the Eved. The Ibai Shakal Arba Zuzim Yisroel, because he could be sold for 4 zuz from a Yid, right? Which a 4 zuz is a very small amount of money. Meaning the Yid, the boss, the Kohen, can just sell him for 4 zuz. The owner, yeah. The owner will passel and passel him wherever he is, right? It's meaning, even though the slave can run away, right? So now, what are we saying? So he can't give him a get shichrur. He can't free him because the guy's not around to take it. Okay, but he could sell him. He could sell him to Yisroel, right? And you're going to say, now what Yisroel is going to buy? What stupid Yisroel is going to buy an Eved who ran away, right? You're not going to get anything out of him. So he said, no, there might be Yisroel who will buy him for 4 zuz, which is nothing on the small chance that the guy comes back, right? And so therefore the guy, the boss, the owner has the ability to get this Eved not to eat truma, right? So therefore the shliach is not doing anything too bad either, right? So that's basically what they said back to Rameir. Fine. So the Rameir, Tinach, Eved Kohen, Eved Yisrael, Ma'ikal Mema. So Rameir, it could make sense that it's a negative to free the slave, that because he's not going to be able to take truma, but that's only by a slave of a kohen. What about a slave of Yisrael? Why can somebody accept on his behalf without him knowing a get to free him? Right? In L'chara, there's no loss to it. There's only gain. Right? Because you don't have the truma issue. No, because there is a loss. He's going to lose out on shifcha kananis. Calls man that he's an Eved, he can sleep with shifcha kananis. But once he gets freed, he becomes a full-fledged Yid, and he's also the shifcha kananis. So the obvious question is, okay, it's very nice that he can no longer sleep with a shifcha kananis, but he can now at least he can date regular free girls.
That's good for the Eved.
The Gemara,
because the Eved, but not for the Adon, because the Adon, he can use them for breeding. You know, as long as he gets lost, it's bad for the Adon because he loses his buck, so to speak.
Yeah, okay, but that's true. But we're talking from the angle of the master. The master, the boss gave him the get. The question is, can he accept it on his behalf? What is there about?
I hate to do this to Shmuel David because he lived through this morning. But I don't know. The guy wants to go on a boat and go back to Rome and live with his family? The Yid stole them off the Barbary coast, or Yid they had a war and he was a soldier. Who says he wants to be Jewish, this guy? He's going home to Rome. You don't want to be Jewish. What's he want to be Jewish for? I mean, it's beyond.
I don't think that's worth
If you stop, I can't take it. I just can't take it. If
want to say what?
I can't take it. So
I'm with you. It's very difficult. I think I'm chayshid. That's why I'm having a hard time understanding avodim. The whole concept is difficult. That you're having the problem. Freedom.
Yeah.
I think by Eved Kanani has to be Barotza to become an Eved. At some time, it had to be Barotza. Not that he was stolen or knocked him over the head. That doesn't work. It had to be, but sometime Barotza. So all the slaves and stuff that we had here in America, it doesn't work. It was only as if a person decided he wants to be an Eved and it's a good business because he works, he's got his food, he's got his room and board taken care of. So then he's good Eved, But that's to steal a person off the street. That's not what's called the Eved.
No, but I'm saying, but the guy was down and out for a little bit, so he had to make himself an Eved. So now he's okay. All right, whatever. But,
so he made himself an Eved. So he's an Eved loyalim.
Right. Okay, but Rabbaran, at least the next line is an advantage to him from the Gemara, right? I'm saying, whatever. Let's see the kasha. It's very nice that he loses out on all the shifta knaneses, but look how many.
Yeah, they're going to. The shadchanim are running to him. Yeah, they're running to him.
Yeah.
I want to catch this guy is. Yeah, they're going to run to him.
Yeah. Well, he at least has the opportunity. So Gemara says, "Avda behefkera nichale." An Eved would much rather be with a shifcha knanis than with a bas chayrin. Zilale, because they're cheap to him, right? And shchichale, and they're common to him, pritzale, and they're parrots to him, meaning he has it much easier. He has basically, you can pick up a shivcha knanis a whole lot easier than you could pick up a nice Jewish girl.
He can also have a mamzeris. There's probably a lot of those around too.
I don't know, but okay. So anyway, so because of that, because he can only marry bas chayrins, it's a whole lot harder to be married to a Beis Yaakov girl than it is to be married to a Shivcha. That's essentially what the Gemara is saying, right? Yeah, I don't know any other way to say it, but that's basically what the Gemara says. Yeah. Okay, so it comes down. That's an interesting machlokes that ultimately the machlokes in Rameir, Rebbe Lazar, is if it's who is it more nicha for a eved to sleep with, a bas chayrin or another a shivcha knanis. Okay, fine. Weiter in this similar sugi. So Aimer tnu gets ele ishti. A guy says, "Give this get to my wife." Shtar shikra zela avdi, and this the get of freedom, what do you call emancipation get? Shtar. To my Eved, umeis, and he dies before it was given. Right, so basically he said, so there's some girsa issues here with the R says tnu, Rashi says don't say the word 10, right? Because tnu is more, it's really the whole thing is happening after he dies. Right, so basically he told somebody, give a get to my wife. Or he said to the Eved, or he said to somebody, give a shtar shikhr to my Eved. Then he died, lo yitnu. Don't give it lachar misa. Don't give it after misa. Right? Now, the reason is because once the wife is dead, so what's the point in giving her a get? Once the husband's dead, what's the point in giving the wife a get? She's already free, right? And the Eved, once the boss, once the owner dies, then it's already Yerusha to his kids, so he can't free them anymore. Right?
Martha Washington was very machmer on this.
Why?
George freed his slaves in his will, and she decided to keep the will and not tell him about it.
Right. That how it went down, yeah?
Yeah.
I don't know, it was yeah. So anyways, yeah, so basically you can't give it after Misa. But money, through monolish pliny, but if he said give 100 to this person, umeis, and then he dies, then yitnu la'achar Misa, then you could give it after he died. Right? So we have to see what's exactly going on in this last case. So the Gemara says, the Gemara discussing the last case. Amar Rav Yitzchak bar Shmuel bar Marsa Mishmei Rav Puchet Ziburin Umanachim Bekeren Zavas. This, that when a guy says that give this money, give this mana, right? Give this 100 to this person after he dies. After, meaning after I die, the guy says after I die, give. No, I'm sorry, he didn't say after. That says give him 100, then he dies. So the Mishna says he gives him the 100, right? But only if there's a pile of money in the corner of the room. So it says, "But my askinan, what are we talking about? Ilema bari." If you say that we're talking about a bari who's giving out money, kitzibur and my habi, why do you need it to be piled up? Allah mashach. Not why do you need? What is it going to help? Where is the kinyan? Right? Where's the Mashiach? Right? Meaning, if the guy didn't take the money, so then how do you go give him the money after the giver dies? Right? So then, so it can't be a regular healthy guy. Must be talking about somebody who's, the literal translation is he's going to sleep from bed, meaning he's about to die. Right? So there he's giving away his money. And we know that we're much more makel, that whatever Shib Meirah says, all the regular halachas of kinyonim and all that are out the window when for a Shib Meirah. So what are we talking about a Shib Meirah? My area tziburin. So then why are you saying that the money has to be piled up? Ki ain't tziburin nami. Even if it's not piled up, it goes to the guy. The words of a Shib Meirah is as if they're written and handed over, right? Like we said, the words of a Shib Meirah, because we want to make sure that he has as much yishuv adas as possible, so therefore we let him know that, by the way, whatever you wanted to do, we did without kinyanim, and it all works. So if that's the case, so why do you need the money piled up in the corner? Right. So the Gemara is asking either way. What is the situation that you need the money piled up? If it's a regular person, then piled up won't help. And if it's a Shib Meirah, it doesn't need to be piled up. So Rav Zvid, La'ilam Bebari. Rav Zvid said we're talking about a healthy person. If a guy says, you have a money of mine, give it to somebody else, meaning there's three of us. Let's say it's me, Peretz, and Naftali Lion. Right? Now Peretz owes me 100. So I say to Peretz, instead of giving me the 100, give it to Naftali Lion. Right? And we're all three standing there. So b'maimed shlashtan kana. If it's done when all of us are standing there, meaning me, Peretz, and Naftali, then Naftali automatically gets that 100. And he doesn't have to do any form of a kinyan. Right? It's a special din, and we're going to see in the Amud Beis what are we talking about here? Was it a loan? Was it a present? Was it stam that I was watching the $100, or Peretz was watching the $100 for me? Right. So, but whatever it is, if all three are standing there, then basically the transfer would go from me being owed the money to Naftali being owed the money. Right. So that's what we're talking about. So therefore, you need the money. You need the money to be by the middle guy. It needs to be somewhere. Right. So therefore, it needs to be piled up, meaning piled up by the person. In this case, Peretz. It has to be piled up in his property. Otherwise, it doesn't work. But Papa Amar, he says the other way. We're talking about what a guy was dying. And it goes like a different din of Rav. If a Shchiv Meirah, a guy dying, says, give 100 to Pliny from my belongings, mana zen noisnin, right? Then it depends. If he says mana zeh, this mana, then you give it. Mana stam. But if he just says stama mana ain't nice, and you don't give it. Why not? Because again, if the guy says, the Shchiv Meirah says give 100, if he says this 100, then it goes to him. If he says stama 100, then he doesn't. Chashin shem mana cover kama, because we think that maybe the guy dying said that he's giving him the $100 that's buried, a buried treasure somewhere, right? I mean that's the 100 he meant to give over, not stama 100, right? So therefore, in this case, even though it's a Shchiv Meirah, but the money has to be sitting right there, then we say, oh, the money that's sitting in the corner, that's the 100 that he meant. But happens to be that we're not chayshish for kfura, so we're not even chayshish for this thing. So Rav Papa Meaning, and we don't require that 100 to be there. So Rav Papa is basically saying that the Mishna is shaloi halacha, that the money has to be piled up. Okay. Rav Papa, my time so how come Rav Papa says that it's talking about a shchiv meirah, and we're concerned for the opinion that says that you have to have specific money? So why didn't he say like Reb Zvid on Beis? Kasava Rav Papa ki amar Rav. Because when did Rav say this din of the three people, right? Because Rav Zvid's teretz was what's talking about where there's three people there, and you're transferring from one to the other. Because he said that Rav says his din that you can transfer a debt from one person to another person, whether it was a loan or whether the guy was watching it. All right. So again, using the case that Peretz either owes me $100 or he's watching $100 for me, I can go say, instead of giving it to me, give it to Naphtali, right? So Rav Papa holds that's the way it works. But our Mishna in that, and then it doesn't, if you hold it, that's the din, then it doesn't have to be piled up specifically in the corner. It could even be money in the bank that you're transferring. So since the Mishnah says it's money in the corner, it can't be talking about Rav. Again, because since Rav is talking about in all scenarios where, let's say, again, using example, Peretz owes me the money, either Alta Halva or Alta Pikadon, or he's watching me, but either way, it does not have to be piled up in the corner. So therefore, by the Mishnah saying it has to be, the Gemara is saying that it has to be piled in the corner, that can't be going like Rav. Okay, Rav Zvid, my time, Rav Papa. How come Rav Zvid doesn't say like Rav Papa that it's talking about a shchimira? So he says, the Mishnah we can't say the Mishnah is talking about a shchimira. Why? If a guy says, give this get to my wife, and give a shtar shechur to my servant, and then he dies, he doesn't give it after misa. Time of the mace. The reason is because he died. But if the husband was still alive, then they could give the get. Why? Time of the amar tenu. Because the reason is that because the husband says give it. Haloi amar tenu. But let's say he didn't say tenu, or he just said write a get. Then ain't nice. Then we don't give it. Meaning he has to say give the get. If he just says write a get, then that means he just told them to write him the get. It doesn't say that he has to give it. Right? But even if he doesn't say the word tenu, right? But he just said write a get, then you give it to the wife. In the beginning, they used to say that somebody's going out in chains to be killed, Rashi says. And on his way, being, he didn't have any kids. That's a simple case. He didn't have kids, so he didn't want his wife to have to deal with Yibum or Chalitza. So on his way out to be hung, he tells them, write a get to my wife. So there, that they give. Then there they write it and they give it, because it's clear that he meant for the get to be written and given. Chazru, that's what they said in the beginning. But then Chazru, they went back and said, even somebody who goes out to on a business trip, on a shayara, on a caravan, yeah. Mefarish means goes on the boat, and a shiyara is on a caravan. So Reb Shimon shizuri omer af hamasukin, and he says even somebody who's masukin can write the get. So not only is it somebody that's out, that again, not only that is it somebody, if the guy is dying, is going to be brought to death, that if he says write a get to my wife, we give it. But we're saying even if he's just going on a business trip and he says write the get, then we give it. And then Reb Shimon Shizuri says, even if he's b'sakana and he says write the get, you give it, right? And l'chayra means even after he died. So you see that it can't be, in our Mishna, we said after he dies, you don't give it, right? So therefore,
wait, it means after he died, or even with just kisvu, without.
Well, yeah. It's really just he just wrote right. I'm sorry, right? He said just write it, not the other right. Right, correct. Write the get, and you give it, and you actually give it to the wife, right? And he says that even by somebody who's a sakana, which Rashi says means a shchiv meirah. right? So our Mishnah that says don't give it, right? Must be is we're talking about a healthy person, not a shiv meira, right? Because we paskin like Rav Shimon shizuri. So since we paskin like Rav Shimon shizuri, so then you have to say that our Mishnah is talking about where he was a healthy person, not a sick person. Because if it was a sick person, then we would give the get, right? So therefore, our Mishnah cannot be going according to what Rav Papa said, that it's talking about a shiv meira. It has to be talking about a healthy person. Somebody want to say something?
Is someone going out on a business trip? Isn't the reason why he would write the get because it is a sakana?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. There's no nafkamina between being in a sakana and going on a business trip.
Oh, so it seems like, you're saying that if the middle shita that says that going on a business trip, it's not the middle shita, but when they chazar ulam and said going on a business trip, we say that if he says just write a get, we give it. So he's saying for sure somebody b'sakana. That's what you say.
Yeah.
I hear. How do you not say like Reb Shimon shizuri?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a good point. Is that possible that?
Well,
I hear. You're not going to say, if a guy going on a trip, we're saying when he says write a get, so you give it. So then kol shekain, somebody who's besakana. Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Yaakov.
Yeah.
And I know you know the family. Bigger Wisen was so she shouldn't be an aguna, right?
What, when with the phone call?
In the trade center, yeah.
Yeah, they made the phone call. Yeah, the phone call they used said that she should not be an aguna. But because he said that he should. Did he say that he should get again? I don't remember.
I don't know. That's why. But I know they
Trying to remember.
That's how the Misa goes, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't, as far as I remember, I know that they didn't sit Shiva. No, but that's true. That's two different things. They did not sit Shiva for a while.
Like a month later, right?
Yeah, they didn't sit Shiva for a while. So I don't know if that tied into what he said on the phone. I gotta ask my brother Nassim. He'll remember better.
Okay. Fine.
Yeah. Fine. So that's what we're saying. So that's why Rav Zvid didn't want to say like Rav Papa. So Maskal Rav Ashi, he asked the kasha. Uman nemelan the Masisa Rav Shimon shizuri. Who says that our Mishnah is going according to Rav Shimon shizuri? Dilma Rabbanani. Maybe the Mishnah is a Rabbana. That who hold that even somebody who's Masukan has to say tenu, give the get, and not write the get. Right? Meaning Rav Shimon shizuri said, we're saying, our Mishnah has got to be going according to Rav Shimon shizuri, who says that somebody who's besakana has to give when he says write the get, means you give it, but maybe it's going like the Rabbanan who disagree with Shimon shizuri and say that he has to actually say give the get. Somebody who's besakana says has to give the get. Right? Okay, so let's see. Fine, weiter. So Gufa. Now going back to the Maimid Shloshton, which is again, we said this case that Rav said that if you have we used our example again, Peretz, myself, and Naftali Lerner. So Peretz owes me money, and I say, forget giving it to me, give it to Naftali. Right? So we say that works, even though there was no actual kinyan done, as long as all three of us are standing there. So Gufa, Amar Avun Amarav, Mana li biyadcha, Teneu lePliny. You have a mana of mine. You have my money. Go give it to Pliny. B'mayim shlashtan. If they're all three of them there, kana is kaina. Right? So meaning without any sort of kinyan. So the Gemara says, Amar Rav, Mistavra milsei de Rab Pikadon. It makes sense by a Pikadon. Now, Pikadon, it means that, using our example, Peretz was watching this $100 for me. He didn't owe it to me. He was watching it for me. So therefore, I said, you know what? Don't give it back to me. Give it to Naftali. But by a loan, doesn't make sense that I could transfer the deed of the loan to Naftali. Right? Without any kinyan. But by means by Hashem, meaning it's sort of like a shavua. Amar Rav afilu b'malva. Rav said, even by a loan, we could transfer it. Right? So Itmar Nami, Amar Shmuel, Mishmei Levi, Malva li biyadcha teneo loy lePliny. You have a guy says to, meaning again using the example, I go to Paris and say, hey, you owe me $100. You go give it to Pliny. But my mitchlushtan, if they're all three are there, then kana is kindness. So you see that this works for a halva too. For time of my, why does it work? Right? Meaning, it's just a debt. It's not something. How do you say it? It's not a chefza. Meaning, if the guy's parrot, using the example, parrot is watching something for me, okay, so the chefza is going into Naftali's rishus instead of my rishus. But here it's just a halva. It's just saying, okay, you know that debt that you owe me money, give it to, the loan is not due yet, so there's nothing to put the mimer on. So instead of giving to me, give it to Liner. But where's the kinyan? Right? There's nothing to have a kinyan on. It's as if he says when the money was given over, right? Meaning when the loan happened, basically as an unwritten line in the deed will say as follows: yes, I'm giving you the money as a loan, but you're going to have to pay it back to whoever I choose for you to pay it back to. Meaning it could go to me, it could go to somebody else. So that's an unwritten part of the loan.
Isn't that kind of problematic? They're kind of problematic.
Why?
Because if I loan you money, right? I loan you money, that's fine. You know, I trust you, you trust me. But I tell you, but you have to pay it back to Luigi. Luigi's going to put the broken nose over there, right? You're not going to be so happy with that loan because I may be easy on you, but Luigi might take it out of your neck. You know, so isn't that kind of like problematic? Instead of paying me, pay Luigi.
Yeah, it's a ma'aser b'chol yom, Racham.
That's true. So we're going to get to that in the next.
You sell your debt, right? And he buys it for 50 cents on the dollar.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to it in a minute. I think what you're asking,
you owe the money. You owe the money. You legitimately owe the money.
Yeah. So 1 second. We'll get to that in a minute. Yeah. So the Gemara asks. So let's say he decides to give it over to noiladim, people that are born. Meaning, let's say the loan is 10 years old. Parents borrowed the money from me 10 years ago, and now I say that it should go give it over to my nephew who's 3 years old, who wasn't in the world when the loan happened. Right? So hikman noiladim the loy have b'shas matan mois hachanami the loy kanu. You're going to say that it's not kaina, right? Because they weren't there. How can you say that whoever I want you to pay back the loan to at the time of the loan, you have to pay it back to? But the kid wasn't in the world, right? Even according to Rameir, who we know you can give over something to somebody that's not in the world yet. The classic example is I could sell you fruits from a tree that haven't yet become ripe. That's something that's in the world, right? But meaning it's in the world, it's just not ready yet. But but something that's not in the world, like a child, even Rameir holds you can't do a kinyan. So how are you going to work this if the lender says give it to somebody who was born after the date of the loan? So Ela Amar Rav Ashi. So Rav Ashi is a different pshat on Talmud Aleph now. No, the reason why there's a kinyan here is because the borrower is very happy to change lenders, right? This is happens with mortgages all the time, right? You do a mortgage and a day later they sell the mortgage to somebody else, right? So this borrower is very happy, right? The hana, the that the loan gets put to a new lender, he's very happy. So then he's meshabed himself. Why is he happy? Because this guy's been hacking for 2 years to get the money from the borrower, and the borrower is not paying it. So this guy's getting agitated. Now he transferred the loan to somebody else. That guy's going to be more patient. He hasn't had the loan for years that he's trying to collect on it. He's going to start slow, right? And try and start again. And then the fighting happens. So there's a big hana for the loan to get transferred. So since there's a big hana for the loan to get transferred, he's willing to be maknet to somebody else. So Gemara says, this is, I think, Racham's kasha. What about the Bei Rebel Yashiv? The Kafsi v'Shakli la'alter. They tie people up and they take the money right away. Meaning, if you borrowed money from the Bei Rebel Yashiv, the day that loan was due, they came after you stark. So Hachanami deloy kanu. So you're going to say that he's not kaina, right? Because there's no hana. He's very unhappy if the loan gets transferred to Bei Baral Yashiv because he knows they're going to come after him right away. The chitem hachanami. You're never going to say so enachanami. If the loan gets transferred to tough people, then he's not going to then the kinyan's not going to happen because the lender will never want it. So then then you're giving, then it becomes subjective. Meaning then this maimed shlushtan that you could transfer a loan as long as all three people are there will only work with certain lenders. Right? So now you have no set halacha, which we never like to do that. We never like to have a subjective halacha. Okay, we'll have to stop here because we're going too late. But meaning the Gemara basically is making taras now that there are three dinim that are basically don't make sense, but we treat them like halacha l'maisha b'sinai, and they work anyways, right? And this is one of them, that the loan could transfer from one person to the other person without any sort of kinyan whatsoever. But it's like halacha l'maisha b'sinai, so that you can't ask any kashas on it. Okay, we'll continue that tomorrow. Tomorrow is Hashem. All right. Well, have yourself a fine night.
Yaakov.
Yeah.
I wanted to answer Yeshua Marchek's kasha before.
Yeah.
The difference between Reb Shimon Shizuri and the Rabbanon, excuse me, is that according to the Rabbanon, there's two things that you need. You need